lecture, you might have noticed that I spent some time talking about things that aren't plants. And there's a lot of reasons that we study plants or non-plant things as botanists. And it really deals with the historical context of botany. Botany has been a really central part of human societies and our arts and cultures ever since we even had society. And so a lot of how we study botany is really attached to these historical contexts. Botany is the study of plants and their relatives. And this includes the physiology, the biochemistry, the organization, and ecology of these organisms. Traditionally, this has, like I've said, included many non-plant organisms in there. And the importance of this discipline of biology is demonstrated in all the various organizations around the globe that spend a lot of time thinking about and learning all we can about plants. Plants have always been instrumental to humans' well-being. And this dates back to even before we were humans, so to speak. There's really good evidence that Neanderthals and other early hominids actually were botanists. They went around and they tried to identify plants that had specific qualities that would meet their needs. They even used these plants medicinally. And our society has been tied to the development of agriculture. Once we were able to breed plants and grow them, we were able to set up complex societies. And this has always been rooted in a lot of what we call herbalism. How can we use these plants to treat our medical conditions? And this idea of herbalism has come up throughout history. We see in things like the Voynich manuscript and other lengthy works that people have spent a lot of time identifying and seeing how they can get plants to work for them. Kind of the earlier views on the plant kingdom were really a lot held back by a lack of knowledge of what we know now about how organisms and biology works itself. Our first idea when we were starting to kind of get a sense of the world we live in, we could divide everything up into three groups: animal, vegetable, or mineral, so to speak. And this kind of gave us only a hard picture to view the world that we live in. Because essentially when you had something, you would ask a question, is it alive, or if it's not alive? If it wasn't alive, it was a mineral. But if it was alive, you would ask then, does it move? And if it moved, it was an animal. And if it doesn't move, then it's a plant. And this is one of the reasons why we have historically kind of studied things like fungus and brown algae and red algae and considered them plants. Before I get really into the modern kind of how we study botany now, I think it's really important to acknowledge that a lot of our knowledge about plants is really rooted on a Western bias. But there's a lot of people around the globe and a lot of different cultures that have very complex understanding of plants and how that they can make those plants and use their biology to benefit themselves. And unfortunately, one of the problems that we've had is that we've lost a lot of this indigenous knowledge. For instance, the Anishinaabe culture, a tribe in the upper Midwest region, has extensive knowledge about how to manage wetlands. One of our problems that we're dealing with now with climate change is we're losing a lot of wetlands to diversion as well as just massive droughts. And we've been able to look back at this tribe and they've been able to kind of give us tips on how to better preserve a lot of these areas. And it goes without saying that a lot of the other cultures, especially cultures in the Far East, have a long tradition of using and understanding the biochemistry of plants to treat various ailments. And a lot of our modern understanding of medicines and where to look for various compounds to treat our various human calamities have been coming from these kind of old texts that we've been reinterpreting and bringing into modern areas. Western plant science, on the other hand, is really kind of a unique tradition in that a lot of it's based on ancient Greek culture. Theophrastus has been known as the father of botany, is one of the Westerners that we believe wrote one of the first true works on the biology of plants. And this idea of this ancient Greek works were kind of rediscovered during the Enlightenment when that old tradition of herbalism was really brought into the forefront to mix with these kind of new ideas about how to do science. And it really came across to a lot of people that we needed better ways to standardize these plants, especially if we were consuming them and using them. And at the same time, this kind of idea of better standardizing caught up, we also found that global trade was starting. We had the Silk Road, and so we were seeing all these new plants and new ideas that we needed to somehow synthesize. And this organization was a really big boom, not just for botanists, but for biologists in general. And this was started with Chuck Linnaeus, the famous organizer of life. And he developed a system that we could systematically go through and identify things. Chuck Linnaeus was kind of a ridiculous character in a lot of ways. He kind of would dress up in fantastical outfits when he went around and tried to get money for his various pursuits. And in later life, he would have his students literally carry him in the field as they brought him specimens for him to bestow the names on. So Linnaeus was kind of a weird guy, and but his mark on botany is really profound and carries through today. In fact, one of the plants that we have in our own backyard, the twin flower, was Carl Linnaeus' favorite plant, and it's named after him, Borealis linnaeus. With all this development though, botany really kind of took off as a science. And really the study of plants have been really instrumental in science and our understanding of biology. Botany has mostly traditionally been a descriptive science, what this plant is, what it looks like, how to tell it apart from others. But there's kind of a long and growing process of quantitative investigation and inductive questions being asked in botany, which is really kind of the main mode of botany that we see today. For instance, Robert Hooke developed this concept of a cell by looking at a quercus bark or oak bark. And our first virus that we were able to describe and understand was found in tobacco, the tobacco mosaic disease. And today, botany has kind of continued this tradition. And it's really been embraced by applying kind of modern tools such as genomics and other molecular methods to confronting a lot of our modern problems we have. Botany includes a vast array of subdisciplines now, everywhere from forestry to food science, ecology, physiology, biochemistry, and genetics. But plants are integral to people, and where we go with our science, we really do take plants with us. However, despite these kind of great tools we have, botany has been in decline. Fewer and fewer schools offer botany programs. There's less and less botanists graduating. But the demand has never been higher for botanists than there are now. Climate change and a growing population are really big issues that we need to deal with as a society. And being able to grow plants to feed those populations in very different ecosystems than we've had in the past are going to be very instrumental. And botanists are really edged on the forefront to add their expertise to these areas to really solve a lot of these human issues that we have and will have in our future. And the one plug is as a botanist myself, I've had a wonderful career and it's been extremely fulfilling as a botanist. I've gotten to go throughout the globe, I've gotten to explore my backyard, and I couldn't imagine another discipline to be in. So to review real fast, botany is the study of plants and their relatives. And our botanical history is really based on our collective use of plants in our lives. And a lot of our biological knowledge has come from our understanding of these plants. And as we are about to face the future and issues that we have, botany is going to be a really key component into making and keeping our Earth more livable. Okay.